Welcome to BillingPoint on its electronic billing program. Once you have completed all of the onboarding steps, we will send your user registration to the main contact used during the onboarding process. That user can then set up any additional users needed for your firm. Your firm's domain will be provided to you in your registration email. To log in, you'll use your email and the password that you set. If you forget your password, you can use the Forgot Your Password link on the login page. When you log in, you'll be presented with the Switch Client dialog box. From here, you can navigate to a specific client's details or to your master settings to add and edit account timekeepers and access your account settings. To view your assigned matters, navigate to that client within the Switch Client dialog box. The assigned matters can be found under the Billing Authorizations tab. Here, matters will be listed with their matter number in blue and their matter name in black. You can use the search bar to search for matters using the matter name, matter number, or a portion of the matter name or matter number. You can view the status of the matter in the status column. Closed matters will appear under the Archive tab. A matter must be assigned to you by your client and visible under the Billing Authorizations tab in order for you to submit an invoice to that matter. You can view matter details by clicking on the blue matter number. Here you will find important details on the matter, such as the client, the fee arrangement, and the assigned legal entity. On the bottom, you will see a list of any submitted invoices to this matter. You can also view a list of timekeepers that have billed on the matter, as well as an overview of the expenses and tasks. We will now look at the Invoices section of the BillingPoint system. Using the Select Client dialog box, navigate to the client that you need to submit an invoice to. BillingPoint accepts leads files via upload, or you can manually submit invoices in the system using the new invoice option here. We'll go over that in a bit. First, to upload leads files, you can choose Upload Invoice here, or via the Upload History screen, there's an Upload Invoice option. On the Upload Leads File dialog, select the currency of your invoice, as well as the billing office. You can then either drag and drop your leads files, or click to browse on your computer and select your files. We accept multiple leads files in one upload, as well as multiple invoices within one leads file. The next screen will show if your invoice files are valid or not. Valid leads files will be marked in green, with the send box automatically checked. Invalid files will be marked in red and will not upload to the system. If you wish to not send your invoice upon upload, uncheck the send box. This invoice will now upload as a draft. If your invoice is subject to VAT processing rules, check the box for VAT. Valid invoice files will show at the top with their invoice status. The files with errors will appear below with a list of the errors from within the invoice. These errors must be corrected and the invoice file reloaded before it can be submitted to the client. Draft invoices will show draft here. Invoices that are being sent to the client will show their invoice status here. You can click on the invoice number to view the full invoice, as well as to determine the final status. You can also use the refresh status button to determine the final status of the invoice from this screen. An invoice status of pending approval indicates your invoice has been successfully submitted to the client. If you chose to upload your invoice as a draft, you can now view the invoice, make edits, add attachments using the Add Attachment button at the bottom. When you are finished and ready to submit your invoice, the Send button can be found here at the top. To navigate back to your invoices list, choose Invoices under the Invoice screen. This invoice list will show the status of all of your invoices loaded within the system. A status of approved indicates the client has approved the invoice and it is pending payment. A status of pending approval indicates your invoice has been successfully submitted to the client and is pending their approval before payment. A status of paid indicates your invoice has been paid by the client. Failed invoices will show a list of errors by hovering over the failed status. You can also view the errors via the full invoice view by clicking on the invoice number. Red validation errors must be corrected before the invoice can be submitted to the client. Orange validation warnings will not stop your invoice from submitting. To correct errors on your invoice, you can use the Edit Invoice button at the top. In the editing screen, you can edit the invoice header, edit individual line items, add line items, remove line items, or add attachments. When you are finished making edits, click Update to save all changes. You will still see previous errors after making edits and saving them. Invoices are checked against the client's validation rules upon submission. Once errors have been corrected, click Send to resubmit your invoice to the client. This will rerun the rules check and will present you with a fresh status of your invoice, either pending approval or, if there are still errors, failed. You can use the Refresh Status button to update the status. Invoices disputed by the client will show a status of disputed. If the client leaves a comment indicating the reason for dispute, you will see a number in the comments column on the invoices list. To view the comments, open the full invoice view. The comments will be provided here. In this case, the client is asking to provide expense backup for the expense listed on the invoice. To add this backup, choose Edit Invoice and find the file. Choose Update. You can now resubmit the invoice. Alternatively, if the edit or request from the client is something that cannot be done within the system, you can choose to void this invoice. If you void an invoice, you can upload or create a new copy of that invoice and submit it to the client. Voided invoice numbers can be reused. We will now look at creating an invoice within the system if your firm does not have the ability to create and upload leads files. From the Invoices tab, you can choose New Invoice, or from the Invoices list, you can choose the New Invoice button. On this form, you will select the submitting office, the matter that you are billing, the invoice date, the invoice billing period, and enter the invoice number. You can then add any fee line items, any expense line items, invoice level discounts. If you have a tiered volume discount agreement with your client, you'll enter that discount here using the TVD01 discount code. And taxes, notes, as well as attach any needed attachments. Once you've completed the required fields, you can choose to send the invoice to the client or to save the invoice as a draft. We will now look at the timekeepers section of the BillingPoint system. Timekeepers exist in two locations within the system. The first is as an account timekeeper. The second is under the client view with a client approved rate. Timekeepers must be added as an account timekeeper before their rate can be submitted to the client for approval. To add a new timekeeper, use the Switch Client dialog box and choose your master settings. Here, you'll see a list of your account timekeepers. To add a new timekeeper, choose the New button at the top. Add in the required information for the timekeeper. A red asterisk indicates a required field. If the timekeeper holds a lawyer staff classification, the date bar passed and the year first practiced are required. Choose the office in which the timekeeper primarily works. The gender and ethnicity fields are required, but a not disclosed option is provided when this information is not available or not legally allowed to be provided. You can also add a profile link to the timekeeper's profile on your firm's website, type a written bio, or attach a resume for this timekeeper. Once the form is complete, choose Create Timekeeper. This timekeeper will now appear as an account timekeeper. To submit this timekeeper with a rate for the client to review and approve, use the Switch Client dialog box and choose your client. Under the Timekeepers tab, choose Manage Client Rates. Here, you'll see a list of the client timekeepers with either a pending rate or an approved rate. To submit the timekeeper we just added, choose New Rate. Here, you'll select the timekeeper from the drop-down menu of Account Timekeepers. If your client uses custom staff classifications, you must choose a client custom staff classification in the drop-down here before you submit your rate. You must also use the client custom staff classifications in your leads invoice files for uploading. You'll enter the effective date of the rate, as well as the client-specific rate you need approved. The effective date should be prior to any time that you need to bill for this timekeeper. You can also include additional information about the timekeeper or the rate request in the reason field. Choose Send to submit this rate to the client for review and approval. You'll now see this timekeeper listed on the client timekeeper list with the rate in the pending rate column. Once this rate is approved, the rate will appear in the approved rate column. You can also see disputed rates here, or under the Pending Disputed Rates option under the Timekeepers tab. To view the disputed rate and the comment, click the timekeeper's name. Here, you'll see the comment from the client as to the reason for the disputed rate. From here, you can either edit the rate and resubmit, or you can void the rate request entirely. To submit a new rate for a timekeeper that already has a client-approved rate, choose the Manage Client Rates option. Find the timekeeper and choose Manage Rates. Here, you can enter the new effective date for the rate, as well as the updated rate. When submitting a rate increase request, the reason field is required. Choose Send once you are ready. You will now see the newly submitted rate in the pending rate field. Once it's been approved, it will replace the current approved rate in the approved rate field.